older concept. It was funny. I was at Inman last week, and Open Door has always been the one that said, we're never going to work with agents. We're never going to work with agents. Direct to consumer. We're getting 10 million hits a month. Well, sure enough, the Open Door booth at Inman is Open Door now working with agents. So, as much as people say the real estate agent is going to go away or the community is going to shrink, I just don't see it. We are a very powerful group, and we have the knowledge and the experience to actually pull off these transactions, because the consumer by themselves doesn't know about the notary or the paperwork or everything that needs to be done on the back end. And that's really where they need, call it, our advice.
Yeah, we try not to do only market data, because I think that if they're in the mode to buy or sell, they care. But what about those 7 years in between? On average, people move. Well, I think it's even 5 years now. But still, how do I say relevant in their life for the next 5 years before they buy or sell, so that they reach out to me when it's time? And so for us, it's, on our consumer stuff, it's very localized. Here, yes, there maybe is a little bit of real estate.
Welcome back, everyone. I've got Stuart Sim. He's my friend, and he also works at Chime. We're going to talk about some buyers and power buyers. Stuart, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, so obviously the real estate industry has gone through some crazy changes in the last 5 to 7 years. And one of those is this new concept. Well, there's two real new concepts. Obviously, we all know about EXP, the financial model, but then there's this other thing that's come into play over the last few years called an iBuyer. And originally you had Open Door, Zillow, OfferPad, and they were essentially buying and selling homes, doing a little bit of renovation. And then someone came up with a great philosophy, and they call it the power buyer, which is really the same thing, although these other companies started working with real estate agents. And if you think of referral exchange a few years ago, or other people like OpCity that were doing a pre-qualification of leads essentially for real estate agents and brokers, this is really what it is when you think about the power buyer. They've gone down the path of, yes, they are continuing to buy and sell homes, but now they're working with an agent on a referral, essentially a referral basis, where they take 30 or 35% of the commission and the agent takes 65 or 70% of the commission. So it's an interesting philosophy for sure.
Okay.
When they came out at first, real estate agents were kind of panicking, because that's always what Zillow really wanted to do, right? They wanted to take the market on themselves, possibly hire some agents. It didn't work out for Zillow, but when you think of long term, they still only hold about 2 to 3% of the market. So I actually really love the concept of a power buyer, because I think for agents that struggle with that picking up the phone side of things, doing the groundwork, it's an easy form to entry. Now, yeah, they lose a huge chunk of their commission, but 70% of $1 million is better than 70% of nothing. So I know, your reputation and, some of the guys you work with, you're going to go out there and hustle and do everything you can to get listings and grow your business very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas not everybody is like that. And especially, agents in that mid-tier level, the massive number of agents that are making a living, but they're not that, top 1% or top 2%. I think this is a real good alternative for them. Now, some things have happened in that iBuyer space recently. As we get deeper into this, kind of call it a lull in the economy, they've all recently laid off, 20% of their staff. So, when you're heavily VC funded, it's almost important to stay profitable. So how do you stay profitable in a tough time? You cut costs. So they've all done that, right? They've played that game. They are all heavily funded. Open Door has some crazy number, like $8.5 billion to buy and sell mortgages. So, I mean, there's so many pieces to the puzzle of how an iBuyer power buyer works. So one of the reasons Zillow failed at the iBuying concept, first of all, they were paying too much for houses. Anything over 90 days, they were losing money on, but they had never attached any other products to it. So where some of the power buyers are having some real big success is they're attaching about 35 to 40% mortgages to the iBuying transaction. So essentially they're double and triple dipping, where Zillow and Open Door at the time were only attaching 4 to 5% of mortgages, which is a huge part of the market right now, obviously. Mortgages are down, but if they're able to double dip on every transaction, in the end, when they start taking a larger piece of the market, and when I say larger piece, I'm talking 5 or 6% of the overall market, they are still going to be much further ahead than some of the, call it, older concept. It was funny, I was at Inman last week, and Open Door has always been the one that said, we're never going to work with agents. We're never going to work with agents. Direct to consumer. We're getting 10 million hits a month. Well, sure enough, the Open Door booth at Inman is Open Door now working with agents. So, as much as people say the real estate agent is going to go away or the community is going to shrink, I just don't see it. We are a very powerful group, and, we have the knowledge and the experience to actually pull off these transactions, because the consumer by themselves doesn't know about the notary or the paperwork or everything that needs to be done on the back end. And that's really where they need, call it, our advice. Sorry, I rambled on there for a minute, Tristan.
No, dude, that's true. I've got a list of power buyer companies. I'll share in a little bit, but I wanted to talk about Open Door since you brought it up. I always like to think of it like this: with Zillow or Open Door, when you look at their initial intent, which was no agent, no agent, no agent, and then they switch and they say, let's work with an agent. I'm still looking at their original intent, because I never forget, because they want to screw us at the end. So
that's right.
Everyone be aware of that. Come in with your eyes wide open and say, look, they're going to use you. They want a piece of everything that you do. As long as you know that, you can work with them better. So it's just part of the world that we live in. I just dropped in a video I made there last week just about that. And with that, Stuart, I wanted to share this with you. This is kind of like Pay It Close, our company, right? Brilliant Tribe. But you get to see all of these are a lot of them, not all of them, right? But a lot of them that you're talking about. The ones I've worked closely with are Ojo, Estately. I worked a little bit with Rocket Homes, but Homelight's great as well. We were Redfin partners when they first came out in Southern California. And these are some great ones that I've collected over the last couple of years. So anything that you see that I'm missing besides the Open Door one?
Well, the interesting one for me is Picasso, right? Because they're the luxury brand. So they're going after a very specific market. They're on $1 million listings showing homes. They're doing some pretty aggressive stuff. There's one out of Canada called Properly, which is really focused on the Canadian market. The two that I really like, and I'll give you a little explanation of why I like them so much, is Knock. I've met Sean Black a couple of times and have some really intelligent conversations with him. And, they have a very good business model. They work with agents. They're growing very quickly. They're jumping into new markets. Homelight, I like them as well, but for a completely different reason, because they're much more conservative. They are staying in the 5 markets that they consider hot, or 5 states that they consider hot, and don't really have a bold expansion plan. Now we are partnering with Homelight as a company. So Chime and Homelight are working together with our agents and their agents. So they work with almost 30,000 agents, right? So there is opportunity if you're in the right marketplace to work with those different brands, the strong ones. Obviously, Redfin has kind of the perfect model, because they have in-house agents that they can then use Redfin now to promote their business. And you got to remember Zillow, the concept behind Zillow was if they were getting 70,000 hits to their iBuyer program every month and only transacting 5% of those, you had 95% of those that became seller leads because someone was inquiring about selling their home. So, from that concept, Redfin has the same advantage because they can then take those people that don't transact and provide them as leads to their agents that are on their roster. So, it's a mixed breed of ways of doing business that is completely different than the industry has seen before. So, I've never been a huge fan of Redfin in the sense of how they do the commissions, and they're a bit different. They're basically discounted, but I do love the fact that they are trying to take care of their agents. So again, it's about partnering with the right company for you as an agent. And what's important to you is the ROI or the leads, the quality of the lead. Now, if you're getting a direct transfer from, say, a HomeLight or a knock, those leads should be very pre-qualified, and it should be a very easy conversation. If the conversation is difficult, then there's something missing in that relationship.
There's a question from Jenny for you in the Q&A section.
Mm-hmm.
She says, how is a large corporate iBuyer not violating state real estate laws, accessing MLS, and executing buy-sell agreements?
That's a really good question. So typically when an iBuyer goes into a market, and that's why it's been slower than kind of expected, right? So everybody expects these iBuyers to jump into every single market across the US, but it takes some time to actually get those regulations solved. So I don't know enough about them, the internal workings, but my assumption is that they would have to be joining the MLSs or working closely with the MLSs on the data side to provide that right kind of information.
Right. I think that's a good answer, dude. It's good. And just keep an eye on things, guys, because as the market shifts, some people are calling for a crash, other people are not. We're going to be a soft landing. And companies like Zillow are saying, no, we're still going to continue to go up dramatically. So the key is that real estate is very regional. So pay attention to it where you're at as well. So now, Stuart, when it comes to buyers outside of the power buyers, where are you seeing that most people are gravitating to for those buyers outside of working with some of these companies like we listed out?
So give me some clarification on that one.
So we typically hear, hey, everyone, since you're with Chime, use our Facebook lead ads, use Google PPC, right? Outside of going and partnering with a company that's going to take 35-40% of our.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you and I have had this conversation before. So it's very important if you're a real estate agent, and let's say, we're coming to the end of August pretty quickly here, sometime in September or October, you start have to really analyzing your business for the year and putting something together. So on January 1st, you actually have a plan of action in place that says, okay, I'm going to take my business from X to Y, and this is how I'm going to get there. You're never going to survive using one lead source. So I remember back in the days when I worked at Realtor.com, everybody was paying massive amounts of money for their connections product, right? And that was kind of their go-to business proposition. It was going to deliver them everything they needed. But the reality is you have to distribute your marketing budget or your lead budget, whatever you want to call it, into several different sources. So I'm a huge social media fan. I believe that social media is only going to get better. And the communication and the communities that you build around social media are going to be probably the number one lead source outside of those, call them paid lead companies like the Realtor.coms or the Zillows. So, how much of your budget are you spending on typical stuff like postcards and bus benches and mailings that you're going to do on a regular basis, but also adapt technology like social media or PPC and SEO. Now, the problem with PPC or SEO is that it's very expensive. So unless your ROI is very strong using that, you have to be careful on your spend, just like you have to be careful with lead generation companies, because as much as we love them, as much as I'm a fan of them, I work with them every day, the conversion rates tend to be very low, right? Now, is that a question that they're providing the quality of the lead isn't as good, or is it the agent who isn't following up fast enough, or providing the potential buyer or seller with enough information to actually get the lead? So, social media, traditional marketing methods, paid leads, your local community, all these different places are super important. And now if you throw in the additional of an iBuyer, you can really build a plan to grow your business fairly quickly. But what was I reading this morning? It was actually a great comment from someone. I think it was on one of your Facebook pages, where the person said, agents spend too much time worrying about the car they're driving or how their business card looks than they do about actually driving business. So I always have this philosophy, and it's an easy one, of how many leads a week do you want to get into your database? So that's what Chime is, right? Chime's your database. It's going to nurture, it's going to do everything you can for the leads that you're bringing in. So, and I have this simple little this concept that I say, okay, if you want to bring 8 new leads in a week, which is pretty small, it's not big. Yeah. Where are they coming from? So let's say I get 2 from social media, I get 2 from the power buyers, I get 2 from my local community, 1 from the hockey team I play on, and 1 from somewhere else. Maybe the broker delivers it. 8 a week turns into 32 a month, turns into 384 a year. Pretty simple concept, right? Yeah. But you also have to be organized, and it has to fit into your budget. So first thing, put a budget in place, and then decide where you're going to spend that money. And part of that money, if you ask me, should be spent with the power buyers, because you want to make sure that your pipeline is full. So I always laugh when I'm talking with real estate agents, and I'm a sales guy, grew up as a salesperson. And if you don't have a pipeline, so we all know what a pipeline is, right? So if you're going to be successful, you've got to have 30 deals that you're working. And if 5 of those transact, you're hitting your goals. But if you have 5 and only 1 of those transacts, you're not even going to come close. So you have to make sure you're building your pipeline through various different sources. And one of those sources is this iBuyer community that is growing very rapidly. I mean, you put up your screenshot a minute ago, and that's just a portion of them. And now as a real estate agent, you're also competing with the other companies with those new financial models that are basing everything on revenue. But I think they're going to struggle over the next 2 years as well.
All right. And what's your sense of why they're going to struggle over the next couple of years?
Well, if you're doing a revenue sharing model, which most of them are, there's just not enough transactions. The transactions are already, you're seeing a huge decrease in monthly transactions. So if there's no transactions, there's no revenue. And if there's no revenue, there's no revenue sharing. Therefore, the concept of what they're doing, call it the traditional pyramid, it just doesn't work. So agents that believe, stock options, if, we take EXP stock is down, right? It's not up, it's down. So you're not making money off the stock, and the transaction money is not there because there's no money to share. So everybody's claiming profitability, we're doing so great. And we've gone from 80,000 to 90,000 agents. But the reality is, when it comes down to it, those agents are going to start looking for alternatives very quickly when they don't see the check coming in. As I know, we are a transient group. We will jump from one company to another if it doesn't make sense financially for us to be there, right? So 20% of agents move companies every year. So
that's crazy. One out of every 5?
1 out of every 5 moves every year. And it might be different, obviously, but I have a friend who's moved twice in the last 2 years, right? So we're looking for the best deal that's available for us as a real estate agent or a broker.
You know why, Stuart? It's a combination of a couple of things, I think. Well, more than a couple, but the ones that come to mind are, 1, sometimes we feel like we need a change of environment to re-inspire us, 1. And 2, it's easier to look at everyone else being the problem instead of ourselves, right?
Absolutely, right? Do I have a broker that's supportive? Do I have the right marketing material provided by the franchise? Do I have the backing that I need? But when it comes down to it, a real estate agent, if you look at the concept of what a real estate agent is they're a private business person trying to make a living, to pay the bills, to put their 3 kids through university or whatever, or get to retirement. Most agents are on their second career. They didn't start as real estate agents. Maybe they started as salespeople or accountants or bankers, but it's going to be an interesting time over the next 2 years, Tristan. I'm also a believer that strong coaching methodologies are very important to real estate agents. So there's some very strong coaching out there. I think you've started a coaching company. And that's where I see, again, it's investing in yourself, right? I do it all the time, taking new sales training, figuring out what's going on in the marketplace, learning, spending time on webinars. And it's the same thing if you're a real estate agent. Think about the time in your day and how valuable that time is for every dollar that you're bringing in at the end of the month.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree. So what do you think is going to happen in regards to how agents need to change in the next 6 months to a year that can really help us produce more? Is it just us focusing on these iBuyer programs, more leads that we have to share commission with others? Or what would you say we need to focus on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think definitely the iBuyer part of it and planning out, right, how much of your budget you're going to spend on each person. But the concept that's really taking off right now is teams, right? Getting on a good team. So, and I'm not saying if you're a weaker agent or if you're a mediocre agent, teams are going to be the defining moment, but that's where I see this very positive outlook on the business is that, a strong team lead that's going to provide you with the training that you need, or the backing that you need, is where I believe the business is really going. And you're seeing that kind of all over the place, people pushing teams. The EXP model is heavily based on teams. Keller Williams model is heavily based on teams. And you're going to see that for agents that are struggling, they're looking for that help. And that's one of the things where I see a team, you've got a team of 20 people, you're going to get much more focused individual time with the team lead than you would say a broker that has 2,000 agents. So I love that concept. And I believe that's where the concept of a team plus technology can really help over the next 2 years, plus new lead sources. So, I see someone posted in the chat there. It's very, very difficult to find the right team. And I agree. But there are usually in your market, depending on where you are, there's one or two teams that you kind of see constantly, whether it's in the media or even just the street signs are there or Instagram posts. And this is where, as an agent, you have to spend time watching your marketplace, and whether that is on social media or just local marketing or at events, sponsorship, things like that, you need to keep your eyes open for those people who are doing a really, really good job. I used to work with a girl at realtor.com. Her name's Kelly Evans. She built a team in just outside of LA, and she's done a fantastic job picking up some top agents, because what she's providing is the industry knowledge of what is really lacking is not every agent out there knows about the power buyer. Not every agent knows about some of the marketing tricks that you can use or some of the technology that is out there to benefit your business long term. And a strong team lead is going to be able to provide that to you, because they are the ones that are out there, call it mining the data for the things that are going to matter to them most. And once your team gets really established, it's much easier to get a listing that way, because everybody knows who you are.
That's very true, man. I love that. And then tell me how Chime plays a role into all this then.
Yeah. So, Chime is a CRM technology backed by AI, but it's really about conversion of leads. But we work really closely with teams. We really see teams growing over the next 2 years, because people are going to be looking for places to hang their hat. And, when you think about the money that you're spending on leads, nurturing, getting a better conversion rate, all in one system, working with social media, strong AI, based on your website, you've got a lot of the work done for you from an automated perspective. So you always, as an agent, have to put your hand in somewhere and say, okay, I've got to pick up the phone and call this person, or I've got to text them. But there's a lot of automation built into Chime to help you get to the next level, or your team get to the next level. And it's all about collaboration, right? So if I want to be able to go in and look at notes, or if I want to be able to see what other people are doing as a team lead, I can really narrow that down to see who's performing and where I need to push some help, let's call it.
Interesting. You know what I see in regards to what you just said, when I'm talking or when I'm coaching these different teams or brokerages, I also come across these power agents, these mega agents that are just single agents, and they've decided to go a different way, where they grab Chime and they use the power of the AI, and they bring in staff members and they bring in showing agents to really create a business where it's
Yeah,
like,
they have an ISA, or they've got
yeah,
someone managing their social media site, or they're actually, instead of having a team, they have a team that's just different pieces of the team, right? You're not building off, say, 5 agents. You're building off a back end team that's managing your business, like it probably should be in a lot of cases, to be honest, Tristan. Agents don't have the time or the knowledge to necessarily be perfect at everything, but if they're good at selling and getting the listing, then if they can have a back-end team supporting them using Chime, or a combination of systems, front end or back end, then you can actually really grow. I believe there's still room, if you're a strong team, to grow over the next 2 years.
yeah, I believe so too, man. I believe so too. And also, if you're a strong single mega agent, a system like Chime can come in and it just enhance that even more because of the AI, man. That's where I think the power is, the AI.
Yeah, I would agree, because it's like it's taking care of your business for you. And the thing we continually hear is the top of funnel stuff, right? I'm buying leads and they're coming into my system, but they're not converting. Well, long term, you have to get one or two of those to convert. So that's really what Chime is all about, is making the conversion rate a little bit higher. And you're not necessarily going to get a listing every time you go to a listing appointment, but if you get them in your database and they didn't have a great experience with their agent, or their agent isn't doing the follow-up that you're doing, you're going to get that next opportunity, because most people will transact, every 5 to 7 years.
I agree, man. All right, last question. Kim says, could you please provide any information regarding power buyer programs, or anywhere she can go to find all of these in one place, or just the ones we named?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few options. Again, I would take a look at Knock and HomeLight. I believe they're 2 of the stronger ones. OfferPad and Open Door have started working with agents, but I really like those 2, the ones I mentioned before, because I think they've been working with agents from the start. The ROI that I've heard about is very positive. So I would look at those 2 to start personally. Knock, HomeLight, they're the leaders in the industry, I would call it. And I think that's probably a good place to start. Knock has over 70,000 agents using their service. And HomeLight has about 30,000. And what they do give you is an exclusive opportunity to work in certain markets and certain areas. So I would look at those to start.
All right, man. I love it. Thank you so much. Everyone, check out Chime. I know Jake put in the link there a few times, and there it is. Thanks so much, Stuart. How do people get a hold of you if they have any questions?
You can actually reach out to me personally, or you can go to the Chime website. I'm happy if you want to share my data. It's no problem at all if someone wants to reach out directly.
I love it. Thanks, Stuart. Have an awesome day. Thanks, everybody. Hope
You
you
guys too. Have a great week.